Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mohawk Valley Community College. On behalf of Dave Mathis and the entire Board of Trustees, we want to welcome you here. Unfortunately, Dr. Van Wagner is in Pennsylvania with a prior commitment on Middle State's accreditation, so he couldn't be here. But it's a pleasure to welcome all of you and Governor Cuomo to Mohawk Valley Community College again. We have some special guests with us today. We have Vice President of Administrative Services, Tom Squires, Mayor of City of Rome, Joe Fusco, and we have all the other distinguished local elected officials that have joined us here today. Thank you for joining us. Today, the Governor and our guests will talk how this vision to build on the tremendous progress we have made together as a state over the last 3 years and continue improving our economy. The progress will continue with the passage of the state budget, due April 1st, just 2 weeks from today. Today you'll be hearing about one of the Governor's top priorities for this year's budgets. It's one that impacts every single homeowner in upstate New York, a plan to cut property taxes and reduce the cost of local government. In order to get this passed in the New York State Legislature, the Governor is taking this proposal to the people and enlisting our involvement to push for this important change. That's the only way things will change in Albany. I'm now pleased to introduce the Governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's truly my pleasure to be back at the Mohawk Valley Community College. I took a quick break from Albany, where I've been with the legislature, so it's good to get out of Albany. Trust me. I want to thank Frank for the nice introduction. Now, Frank said the budget will be passed April 1. I'm a little suspicious because I'm half Sicilian. The budget is supposed to be passed on April 1. We've had 3 on-time budgets in a row that were passed by April 1. This would be the 4th, but we're working very hard to get there, but we're not, I don't want to jinx ourselves that we're definitely going to get there. But it's a great metaphor for Albany, getting the budget passed. You remember what the budget used to be like in the old days, right? Budget was supposed to be done April 1, and then you had that annual Albany ritual where you'd start to watch the news, and it would be a week out from April 1, and the broadcaster, with all due respect, would say, "Are we going to make April 1 the deadline?" They do those interviews. "We're cautiously optimistic." I always wondered what that meant, cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic, and then the state would get up to the deadline, and the deadline would come and go, and nothing would happen. 30 years, over the past 30 years, the budget was late 23 times, an average of 50 days. Imagine that, almost 2 months without a budget. So 3 in a row is great, 4 in a row is better because it's working, but we're working very hard to get there. It's a pleasure for me to be joined by my colleagues here today on especially a nice sunny day, talking about a good thing. County Executive Anthony Pacenti was doing a fantastic job. Let's give him a round of applause. We are working together on a lot of levels, but it's all good, and we're making great progress, as Frank said. County Executive Matthew Ossenfort, pleasure to be with you. Let's give him a round of applause. It's the Montgomery County Executive. It's a beautiful county, and we've started to work on a few projects together with the new county executive, and I'm excited about that. And Chairman Jim Bono, pleasure to be with Jim again. We've had good days together. We've had bad days together, Jim and I. We've gone through a lot of tough times along with the community, but we're the better for it, and we're moving forward. I want to talk to you about an issue that is current in Albany. It is the topic of discussion in Albany, and it's going to be decided over the next 2 weeks or thereabouts for April 1. And I really believe, as goes this issue, in some ways goes the trajectory of the state of New York. I believe it's that fundamental, and I want to walk you through it and talk to you about it because it's about property taxes in the state of New York. Now, we started 3 years ago, and we said we were going to tackle the structural problems that the state had, right? Because this state had a lot of problems that had existed for years that everybody talked about but were never completed. And if you go down the list of things that we had to do to basically change the economy of this state, we've been working our way right down the list. First was the state spent too much money, and it spent too much money for too long. This state spent more money than the people in the state were earning, and we did it for 50 years. I don't even know how we got away with it. I have 3 teenage daughters, and I'm working with them on the fundamentals of economics. And I'm working on the basic concept that you cannot spend more money than you make, okay? It is a system. It's a closed system. The outflow has to equal the inflow. And we're struggling with that concept. That's true, except if you're the state of New York, because we literally spent more money than the increase in people's income. We've gotten that under control. I said we did 3 budgets in a row. The 3 budgets in a row have been at the lowest level of spending in over 50 years. That's how we got the state spending under control. When you get the spending under control, you spend less, you can tax less. And we are. Everybody today pays a lower tax rate than they did 3 years ago. So, number 1 we did. End the gridlock, pass on-time budget so far, 3 times in a row. Hopefully 4th, unless Frank jinxed us, and then it's on him. Redesign the state Medicaid program, we did that. Pass pension reform, we did that, called Tier 6, brings down the pension cost of the state. Cap property taxes, we did that, 2% property tax cap. Real economic development, that we did, that's going great guns, especially in the Mohawk Valley. Put in place a teacher evaluation system, that we did, and we are struggling through. And the last issue, and arguably the most difficult, tackle the proliferation and expense of local governments. Why? We then put in place the Pataki-McCall Tax Commission, which is a bipartisan commission. George Pataki, 12-year Republican governor, Carl McCall, long-time controller, who happens to be a Democrat. We put them together. We said, come up with a bipartisan tax reform plan. And they came up with reforming property taxes, number 1, because they're too high for homeowners, and number 2, to incentivize local governments to reduce the cost. The property tax is the tax in this state that is the killer. It's not the personal income tax. It's the property tax. Why are people leaving upstate New York? It's the property tax. Why do we have trouble attracting businesses to upstate New York? It's the property tax. It is a bigger tax than the personal income tax. It's about $50 billion comes from the property tax compared to about $40 billion for the income tax. And it's not just high in absolute terms. We pay more property taxes than almost any state in the nation, literally. If you look at the counties in this state, some of them literally pay the highest property taxes in the country. Westchester County, the highest property taxes in the United States of America are paid in Westchester County. Nassau is number 2, Rockland is number 4, just in absolute dollars of how much they spend. $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. $40,000 in property taxes per year is not an unusual amount in Nassau and Westchester. Just imagine that. By percentage of home value, the counties in upstate New York pay some of the highest property taxes in the country. 13 of the 15 highest property tax counties in the nation are in upstate New York. By percentage of home value, meaning the homes in upstate New York are valued at a lower dollar amount, but by the percentage of that home value, they're the highest cost in the country. Literally 13 of the 15. Wayne County, number 1. Monroe, number 2. It's unbelievable. Why are the property taxes so high? Because we have a lot of government. We have 10,500 governments. It's just a proliferation of government. Now, we've been working on limiting how much the taxes go up, but there are so many of them that whatever it goes up, it's a staggering amount. You look at your tax bill, you can have 3, 4, 5, 10 taxing entities on your tax bill, and that is the cost. Erie County, 1,000 local governments in Erie County. Westchester County, 425. Oneida, 350. And you look at what they are, well, I want my own city, I want my own town. The identity is important to me. I want my own village, I want my own school district. Do you really care about your drainage district? Who knows what drainage district they're in, by the way? Who knows what garbage district? How about what sewer district? 36 sewer districts. Do you really have an identity to your sewer district? You know. So, this is the problem that we have to tackle. When we talk about property tax reform, it's an opportunity to address the long-term driver of property taxes, which is the cost of these 10,500 local governments. Now, this is not a new issue, and we've been trying to do something about it for years. First, the state has assumed a tremendous cost from the counties and the local governments, because when you talk to the local governments, they'll say, well, the state should pay, right? Because this is politics, it's sort of like life, everybody points fingers. So they say, well, let the state pay. And it's not a bad point. The state has paid. And we have assumed more costs from the localities than any time in modern political history. We pay the full cost of the increase in Medicaid, $1.2 billion. We increased the state aid to localities. So the state has increased how much it's spending. As Attorney General, I passed a law that would make it easier for local governments to try to consolidate. Because many of them said, look, we're overlapping, we're next to each other, we would consolidate. So I passed a law as Attorney General to allow consolidation. How many governments have consolidated over the past 7 years with this new, easy to consolidate law passed by, at that time, a relatively young Attorney General? Look at that, a full head of hair. Look what happens, just a few years in this job. How many of the 10,500 governments have consolidated? 2,220 or 2 over the past 7 years. 2. So, we need to try something else. And this is our next effort to do it. Why haven't they done it? Because it's not human nature, right? Everyone likes control, everyone likes the status quo, and every local government likes to have every function within itself. What we're going to do here is provide a tax credit to localities paid for by the state if the local government comes up with a plan to share services and reduce costs. So we'll use the state credit. It will go directly to a homeowner, 2%, where you get a credit for 2% of your property taxes if your locality is working to save money. Now, we've already proven that linking the state funding to performance actually makes a difference. We were trying to get teacher evaluations in place, a system of teacher evaluations. Why? 7 years ago, the state agreed with the federal government for a grant, and they would put teacher evaluations in place. Teacher evaluations are probably the single best educational reform accepted by everyone. 7 years, the state never got it done. Why? Because it's complicated and it's hard, and the teachers have a union and it has to be collectively bargained. So for 7 years, literally, we had no teacher evaluation system. Last year, we said, how about this? If the school district doesn't have a teacher evaluation system in place, the state won't give that school district the annual increase, which was about 4%. I said, you don't have to do it, but if you don't do it, you don't get the increase. You know what happened? 98% of the school districts all of a sudden complied. So linking funding to performance works. We want to do the same thing here. We will give a homeowner a 2% credit for 2% of their property bill if the local government stays within the 2% cap and if they come up with a plan on how to share services, how to reduce cost. So it's a 5-year plan. Year 1, a homeowner gets a 2% credit. Year 2, a homeowner gets a 2% credit. But the localities then have to come up with a plan, basically on a countywide basis, to save 1% per year for 3 years. 1% per year. Some of the local governments are unhappy with this. They feel I'm applying pressure on them. You know why they feel that I'm applying pressure on them? Because I'm applying pressure on them. That's why they feel that I'm applying pressure on them. But what I'm saying is, look, you have all those local governments in one county. Come together and find a way to save money. Not everyone has to do everything. And we're not talking about basic identities, talk about back office services. Why does everyone have to have their own purchasing department? Why does everyone have to have their own fleet management function? Why does everyone have to have their own legal services? Why does everyone have to have their own accounting services? Find economies of scale. I know it's inconvenient. I know this whole thing of cooperation is a burden and a pain in the neck. I get it. But you know what? The economy's tough. Families have been going through this effort in their own house, right? Everybody had to tighten their belt. Tightening your belt is not fun. It's uncomfortable because you're tightening your belt. It's uncomfortable. It's physically uncomfortable. I get it. But government has to do the same type of thing because we can't have this continued increase. I'm putting pressure on them. It's 1%, literally 1% a year for 3 years. I don't believe is an over-aggressive request. But we would start to turn those property taxes down. We'd have a credit for 2 years, which would, in some counties, mean your property taxes will stay exactly the same for 2 years. There's a 2% cap. It can go up 2%, but you get a credit for 2%. So you'd stay flat for 2 years, which, by the way, in most counties is the first time in modern history that the property taxes haven't gone up. Flat for 2 years, and then we'd have a 1% cut. It is a vehicle to allow local government to come together and start to work together in a way they haven't before. It gives the county executives a vehicle to bring everyone together, and the county executive can convene the local governments and say, look, we have to come up with a plan to share services, and we have to come up with a plan to cooperate in a way we never have. And then they'll grumble, and Anthony can say, it's the governor made me do it. I didn't want to do this. The governor made us do this. And Matthew will say, yeah, I never liked that guy in the first place. But what are we going to do? Because if we don't do it, then the homeowners in our towns are not going to get the credit. And if the homeowner doesn't get the credit, then they're going to be unhappy, and there'll be an incentive to actually get this done. That's what the whole plan is about. And I say it's a no excuses sign-on pledge. Why? Because this is one of those things that we know we've had to do this for 20, 30 years. My father was governor in the 80s. I remember him talking about this. Local government officials will all talk about this. But it's one of those things that's hard, it's inconvenient, and we've just never really tackled it. We want to make this state the state we want to make it. We want to reverse a lot of these trends. We want people moving back to upstate New York. We have to tackle this problem. And we can. This is not an insurmountable problem. This is not like we're trying to cure a rare medical disease. This is simple cooperation and shared services. And just getting people to work together and getting people out of their silos and getting them thinking about doing their job a different way. That's all this is. But it requires leadership, and it's not easy. And I want to applaud the gentlemen who joined with me on this platform today. Because I say it tongue-in-cheek, but it is a lot easier to point fingers and to blame and to protect the status quo. And leadership is hard, and this is inconvenient, and it's not going to make you a lot of friends, and it's a difficult process to go through. So I want to applaud personally the leadership of these county executives and Chairman Bono for stepping up to the plate, because they know if they want to do the right thing in the people in their jurisdictions and they want to see the arrows change in their jurisdiction, this has to be tackled. And I applaud them for stepping up to the plate. We have about 175 supporters. I'm saying to the legislators today who are hearing from the local governments, and the legislators are saying to me in Albany, well, you know, the local governments are unhappy that you're making them do this. I said, I understand. They're unhappy that I'm making them do this. But I also understand that the taxpayers are tired of paying the bill. And I understand the legislators are responsive to the local governments. But I'm saying to the legislators, you know, you should really be responsive to the homeowners and the taxpayers, because that's who you represent. They don't represent the bureaucracy. They don't represent local governments. They represent people. And the taxpayers deserve respect also. And the taxpayers deserve attention by this system. And we're going to go all across the state, and we're going to build support. And we believe that legislature is going to pass a budget April 1, and we believe it's going to be a budget that moves the state forward. And this is the single best thing that the legislature can do for the economy of the state of New York. Stop kicking the can down the road. Let's get the plan passed this year, and let's start to make fundamental change in the state of New York. That's what today is. And with that, I turn it over to my first friend and a county executive who has once again stepped up to the plate and taken the bull by the horns and is showing leadership on this issue like he shows leadership on so many, County Executive Anthony Picenti. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Cuomo, and it is always a pleasure to welcome you back to Oneida County and to the Mohawk Valley. And we have worked, as the governor said, on so many great initiatives that have come through over the last few years, and I look forward to doing more. And I want to thank my other counterparts here at the table, Matt Ossenfort from Montgomery County, and Jim Bono from Herkimer, and Mayor Fusco, who joins us as well. And thanks to MVCC for hosting this. The governor is exactly right. I mean, and we've talked about this for his years, and not just as governor, but when he was Attorney General, and I was also a younger county executive at that time. But it is about restructuring. It is about our homeowners. It is about economic development. And the governor understands that in order to grow this state, in order to have business come here, in order to have our young people stay, that we have to hit right where it strikes, and that's at home, and that is in taxes. We in Oneida County know that. We have restructured over the years, we have moved forward, we have consolidated, and we look to do more. And we did freeze property taxes last year, and it can be done. And you can cut spending, as the governor has in Albany, and we have in Oneida County. This plan will save billions across the state in local governments. And that money can be put back into the economy, so that more companies can grow, that more young people can stay here and continue to make this state the great state that it is. The governor is fighting for homeowners. He has been on that task since day one that he took office, because it does understand that's where it starts. You know, and as a county executive and working with the governor on so many issues, I'm proud to be one of those 175 and growing list of local governments who understand that we cannot stay in the status quo. We want to consolidate. We understand those are tough decisions that have to be made. But tough decisions have to be made when you are building and rebuilding this great state of New York. So I want to applaud the governor and stand with him here as we support this reform and urge the state legislature to come together and pass the budget on time. And an on-time budget is not just about a date on a calendar. It is about recognizing that government needs to continue and needs to continue at the pace and where it starts each and every day. And lingering budgets don't help anyone. So that on-time target is important for a variety of reasons, most of which keeps the markets in place and keeps the credit rating of the state moving forward so that we can grow. And more importantly, it's about the legislature coming together and looking at a plan that recognizes that there are far too many local bureaucracies in New York State. I've said that as county executive, and look to move forward, to look at how we can restructure. I'm pleased to say we're working with the City of Rome on those issues that you've talked about, Governor. That we don't all have to have every department and every aspect of it. That we can look at ways in which we can reduce costs. In doing that, grows our economy. So I applaud the governor. I thank him for his continued leadership. I look forward to continue working with him in the days ahead as we go forward. And I want to thank him again, and I ask you to join me in thanking him for being with us. I'd like to introduce who we call the new kid on the block, because in Montgomery County, they just went to a charter form of government last year and elected their first county executive. And it's my pleasure to welcome a great friend. I wish him very well as he started this year as a new county executive in the state of New York, and that is our neighbor in Montgomery County, Matt Ossenfort. Matt?
Thank you, Tony. I am indeed the new kid on the block, but like the governor, I actually needed a more permanent break from Albany. I spent most of my career in Albany, and I remember a time when property tax relief wasn't even on the agenda, let alone in the forefront. So years of when we witnessed dysfunction, and it felt like in upstate New York we didn't necessarily have a seat at the table. And the first thing I want to do is applaud the governor for taking this property tax issue and putting it at the forefront. That means a lot to us here in upstate New York, and I appreciate that, Governor. And I know the people in my county appreciate that. But secondly, you have the issue of addressing shared services and consolidation on the local level. You're right. It's not an easy thing to do. The model holds true in Montgomery County, and folks are concerned of losing their identity, and it's a tough sell. But by tying it to performance and making it a situation where you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think we have a chance. We're working very hard in Montgomery County. One of the first things that I've done, because we're a smaller county, we're not just looking within our borders, we're looking outside of our borders. One of the first pieces of paper that I signed was a landmark intermunicipal deal when it comes to solid waste with our neighbors to the north. And that's going to save taxpayers a good chunk of money. And moving forward, we have 2 more intermunicipal deals that are going to save taxpayers even more money. And it starts with cooperation. And you have to be willing to work with others, not just in your county, but outside of the county. So we're pleased that we're getting results here. We're going to follow the governor's lead, and we're going to do everything we can on the local level to try to do that. I'm very excited to be here. The county executives that I've been working with have been fantastic. They've been offering a good deal of support and encouragement, and we need it. I tell you, the folks in Montgomery County were so frustrated, they threw out their whole government entirely. And they said, we need new leadership, and I am that new generation of leadership in the Fulton-Montgomery region. And I wasn't elected to just, as the governor said, sit on the sidelines and kick the can down the road. Our Board of Supervisors kicked the can down the road to the point where we're thirsty for economic development. Our folks are paying, like you said, we weren't there on the top 10 list, but we're close. And they're ready for that change, and that's the type of leadership I'm looking forward to providing. So I applaud this effort. I'm excited about this effort, and I didn't sign up to be a public servant to shy away from the issues. We're going to take these head on, and I appreciate the governor really pushing this to the forefront. So thank you, Governor.
Well done. Well done.
And now we're going to hear from Chairman Jim Bono.
Okay, thanks, man. I want to thank the governor for bringing this very important message to the Mohawk Valley. When it comes to lowering taxes and for property homeowners, no one has made greater progress than our governor, and I want to thank him for that. Property taxes, a majority of New Yorkers, and it's a burden we all share, and it's no different in my county, of Herkimer County, 64,000 people. We have, 64,000 people. If you think about that, there's city blocks in New York City that have 64,000 people, and they have 1 or 2 forms of government. In Herkimer County, we have multiple forms, 21 different villages, towns, and a small city of 4,100, 4,200 people. Now's the time it's ripe that we look at consolidation efforts, and it has to be done in a few weeks, actually probably in about a month. I'll be hosting a roundtable initiative. We'll have it right at the county. I'm going to bring all the municipalities in that have actually our public service, our public safety, police, fire, that type of thing, especially police. We have 7 police departments in a small area that cover, from one end of the county to the other. Again, 64,000 people. There's no need for. I have state police protection in my town. They do a great job, and it's no different in these small communities. It's the same 100 policemen that go from here, part-time here, to part-time there, full-time here, that can be consolidated. And it's not just that. It can be done in highway. Herkimer County spent $120,000 on a consolidation effort. It was well received for our highways. Instead of having one central garage, we could have 8 garages that would work more efficiently. The firemen looked at a consolidation effort not too long ago, spent some money on a grant, and that's moving forward. So it's happening, folks. And listen, this is not going to happen overnight. It's a slow process. The biggest fear that we see as local leaders is that everyone's worried that they're going to lose their job. It doesn't have to be structured that way. It can be done over time, and when those people retire, we restructure and redo what we have to do. So again, I applaud the governor for bringing this initiative forward, and look forward to it being established on the local level. Together as a team, we'll be able to save thousands of families thousands of dollars. If we can deliver a property tax to our families, it makes the cost of living much more affordable. So let's make sure that we can help the governor deliver on that promise. So again, Governor, thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, again for visiting NVCC. You're always welcome here. We're glad to have you here anytime. And Anthony Pisani and our fellow county executives, thanks for coming. And that concludes our program.
Beautiful. Thank you.